Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alec Caberna. Not as always, though, is the man we got joined with us once again for the first time this week in Matthew Morrison back on the show. Matt, I promised Mike yesterday I would ask you, what are your thoughts on the new intro?
Oh, dude, I love it. I was just showing my girlfriend it. It's so funny with the flower head I have on. Like,
it really is fitting, too, that you got me head of the week across the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As Mike said yesterday, that's because you're the ultimate meathead of the week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Matt, I've been promising the viewers all week, once we got you on this Friday, we'd get into some high school football. It's obviously what a lot of the fans around the area love to hear about. They want to hear about their teams. We got two pretty good ones that, we've been told we'll be covering this season. We've already got our first game assignment, Valley Christian Campbell Memorial, to start out the season. And I mean, that one's coming up in just a couple of weeks. I already got my book put together of everything to go. Yeah, next Friday, we're getting into it. We got some great games coming up on the network next week, and it's going to be really fun. So I figured today's show was as good a show as any to kind of get in and talk about our two teams that we're covering, their opponents this season, kind of break through the schedule and talk about what these teams are going to be coming up against. And it'll give us an opponent a chance to kind of explore the MVAC gray a little bit as well, because personally, I think it's one of the most fun conferences we have in YSN. Parity goes all over the place with it. I mean, we don't know what Springfield's going to be. Who knows what LeBray is going to be? Western Reserve can make a huge jump, taking LeBray's old coach. So we got a lot to get into. So why don't we start here with Valley Christian? You and I got to see this team for the first time last season, and my, oh my, this was so much fun calling these boys down at John Nappick Stadium. Andy Hake, what a personality. He got on a couple, I think, power hours, and he was doing coaches' corners there as well here on the network. So a lot of people got introduced to Andy Hake to the 10th degree last season. Everyone got a lot of them. I got the chance to call a football game with him last season down there. I think it was McDonald versus Mineral Ridge. You were working the camera in that game. You interviewed him at halftime. It was a great game.
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, McDonald, Mineral Ridge. Speaking of the Ridge, I'm in the Ridge right now, so the field's right down the street. Hank is from me. I was on the phone with him this morning. He had to go real quick, so he might get a call back from him probably during the show. Which he
so
said,
if Matt dips out, it's because he's talking to Andy Hake.
Yeah, so I'll call and get more information for him. But he believes. I tell you what, he always believes in his guys. He will go to battle for his guys. Recent months, I've met more people that know him, and they say, "Oh, he always is. He's always going with his team. He's always there for him. He's great coach, yeah, a little bit of a crazy guy, but hey, we all are, and you need a little bit of that crazy.
He's kind of that perfect football coach blend of crazy and just meticulous. He's so mechanical with the way he approaches this. He's going in there constantly, digging for more, trying to get the very best out of every guy. And once he sees the best out of that guy, he then goes and asks for even more because he knows those kids can deliver. It's so fun to watch Hake see the game, because I haven't been around a lot of coaches, and maybe they're all like this, but I haven't seen a coach just this emotional about it. Andy Hake, I mean, his blood, sweat, and tears are out there with the players. Yeah. If he could put on the helmet and shoulder pads, he'd be out there playing with those 11 guys.
He would.
Yes, he 100% would. I think he needs to be on special teams, because I think he wants to go full guns blazing, trying to take out the return man. Yeah, screaming War Eagle. I mean, we've been down on the field for a lot of coaches and talking to them and seeing their pregame warm-ups and see how they talk to the teams on the field. Hake's pulled us into the locker room, and that's a whole different experience. But I haven't seen a coach be so vocal on the field. Most coaches before the game, they're coming out there, they're talking with their assistants, they're coaching their guys, they go and talk to the other guy, shake hands. And here's Andy Hake screaming, hopping around, always trying to keep that fire just flaming under his guys, always stoking the coals.
And here's another thing. He wants to get everybody involved in his party. And that's
I think we saw that last season, too.
He brings us down on the field last year, and we're like, wow. He's like, we talked to him on the phone before the game. He's like, yeah, come on down on the field. We'll bring you in the locker room and stuff. I'm like, what? All right. Because that's never happened before. And he just brings everybody in. He wants everybody to come in and witness what he is doing. And pretty much every program he has been with, he has turned around. And, I mean, he took this team to the playoff last year for the first time in a very long time.
Actually, I got that stat up here. This is their first winning season since 2012. They went 7-3 last year. They went 9-3 in that season, so they made a little bit of a deeper playoff run then. But I mean, it was a 16-13 loss to finish out the season. You and I got the chance to call that game up in Cuyahoga Heights. It was a fun game. It was close. Referee calls, I think, may have determined a little bit of what was going on in that game, but Andy Hake was as humble as ever after that loss. He just went, hey, I'm proud of these guys. We're going to celebrate our winning season, and we're going to get back to work here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be ready to go for next season. And I hope that holds true, because he's got a talented group coming in. The biggest loss, and really one of only a few losses for this team in the offseason, quarterback Joey Bautista was amazing last season, 1,500 yards, completed about 50% of his passes and 16 touchdowns. He graduated along with their leading rusher in Cam Davenport, who went for 481 yards, averaged 6.5 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns. We've heard Jordan Pete, new quarterback one here in the system. And you and I got to, talk to Hake about this quarterback situation last year during the season, because we went up like,
I was there.
What's your game plan if Joey Bautista goes down? And he came out there and said, this Jordan Pete kid, if it wasn't for Bautista being so great, he would have started Jordan Pete last year. So this is a guy he feels is ready to go. This was quoted before the season here. He's taking this role very seriously. He's a natural leader. Expect big things. And I'm holding Andy Hake to that. When Andy Hake tells you to expect big things, I'm expecting really big things. He's seen a lot in his time.
Oh, he sure has. He sure has seen a lot. I mean, with Western Reserve, what he did there, now he's coming here and trying to do the same thing. He's been around this for a very long time. He knows what he's doing. But I like Jordan Pete. He's a very elusive type of quarterback. They still have Jontrell Mixon on defense too, I believe.
Jontrell Mixon will also take some snaps at quarterback. Yeah. Expect the Wildcat. Really? Yeah, Jontrell. That was fresh from the lips of Andy Hake. I was going through some of his interviews here before the season, and that was one of the things. He's working with 3 guys he believes can take some snaps at quarterback. Pete's their number 1 guy, but as we saw last season with Cam Davenport, they worked him in with the Wildcat formations. They're expecting Jontrell Mixon to fit the same way. Jontrell's a tight end, so they're going to get a lot of power. Expect some power formations with Jontrell at the Wildcat, as they're going to be punching for 3 yards. I'm expecting to see that kind of more in the red zone, or if they're backed up deep in their own zone, to put Jontrell in there and use his power to really put his weight through guys, because I don't remember exactly what his measurements were last season, but I think he was one of those guys. You went down on the field and you went, well, he's the tallest one here, next to Joey Bautista, who was also, I think, 6'4", 6'3", something in that department. 2 very large guys.
Yeah, they're big. I mean, we looked at Joey Bautista and thought it was Big Ben.
Yeah. No, I mean, even Andy Hank said, I mean, he's mini Big Ben over here, although not too much smaller than how big Big Ben is. I mean, it was a big Joey Bautista, and he was fun to watch. He had an absolute cannon. I'm excited to see how Jordan Pete turns this offense into his own system, because we know Andy Hake, he's going to let these guys play to the best of their talents. He's going to specialize plays to make them look the best. So I'm interested to see what they end up doing with Jordan Pete, and if they can put him in a situation that's still going to open the field up for guys like Vashawn Gurley, who's back yet again after an absolutely amazing last season. He was averaging 25.8 yards per reception, which is absolutely unheard of. Isaiah Jones for Brookfield, I don't want to compare players, but just comparing numbers here, because we saw how great Isaiah Jones was. Isaiah Jones was only going 15 yards per reception, and that seems to be about average for your wide receiver one. Vashawn Gurley was going 25 plus per reception. He also pulled in 9 touchdowns in just 25 receptions. This dude, more than a third of the time when he touches the football, they score, which is amazing when you talk about productivity out of a wide receiver. So he's number one guy to watch at every game we go to. Keys to the game. I already wrote it down for Campbell. Vashawn Gurley. Get him the football. You have to find a way to get him involved.
Yeah, for Valley Christian. And, another receiver look out for Phillips Bradley. Showed some flashes last year. That dude can – he's a great route runner as well. And
he's got blazing speed.
Oh, yeah.
This entire team had speed last season. I think that's one of the most impressive things you look at. And even with a guy like Jontrell Mixon, who's, over 6 foot and is a big body guy, he's still got blazes for legs, and he can move. And you don't see that out of every team at this high school. They have bigger guys that a little bit slower, but, much like Clive Wilson at Cheney, this is just a dude that is big, athletic, and he's just built this way, and it's amazing to see. But, we got to highlight a couple other players on this team. We talked about Jontrell. We talked about Pete. We talked about Gurley Spradley. Wide receiver-wise, they also got Kendall Clark. We didn't hear him a lot last season, but he's kind of taken over that spot more from Cam Davenport, trying to fill in some holes here in the offense. But we're going to have John Qualpabellin back. Tyree Washington's back. Jashawn Lindsay is back, who averaged 6.4 yards per carry, had 5 touchdowns, as mentioned. They're also going to be working in this freshman, Ike Lake. Andy Hake said he's really going to be a weapon. They really like what they've seen out of him. Kind of like Pete last year. He's just inexperienced, and they're going to try and find some ways to work him in. And as he gets more experience, expect this guy to go big. So we're already looking towards the future of this Valley Christian team with Ike Lake. This is who they're expecting to kind of take over as one of those big playmakers. So I think with Vashawn Gurley going into what I believe is his senior campaign. So we'll see if Ike Lake, what position he ends up getting mixed in at. We'll see. Offensive line-wise, Matt, this team returns 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen from last season. All have been multi-year starters for Valley Christian. Kyle Cornell, Zion Rogers, Sammy Washington, and Alfred Coward. These 4 guys last year really did a great job locking it down, and you saw that. Joey Bautista had all the time in the world to direct this offense, an offense that finished averaging nearly 30 points per game, which was 23rd in the Youngstown area. So this offense, they're really phenomenal. And they're so balanced. You look at them, they averaged 300 yards of offense last season. 125 of that was on the ground. 175 of that was through the air. And that's all built off this offensive line.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
So they got everybody back. They only lost a couple guys.
Right. I mean, you're going to have Vashawn Gurley back in coverage. Guys like Mixon to be back in coverage. Or actually, Jontrell Mixon, John Qualpabellin, both your defensive ends this year you got to watch out for. They combined for 9 sacks last year between those 2 guys alone. So expect double digits, because one of the big things was they've seen a lot of improvement from year 1 to 2 for this entire team. Especially, this one was the big one in the weight room. We saw these guys were speedy last year. Now you're mixing in the muscle. And to see what this team can be this year, it has a lot of makings to be really, really special. And to have those 2 guys that combined for, I believe, 80 tackles and 9 sacks last year, amazing. Then you got linebacker Brian Tubbs, who led the team defensively with 42 tackles last season.
Oh, yeah. I remember him.
How can you not?
It's going to be exciting. When I talked to him briefly, He was excited to hear back from me, and I think he's excited that we're going to be back on the call. We had a lot of fun with him last year, and I can't
expect
wait.
a lot of quotes because that guy, he loves handing out quotes.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
I think it's one of the funny things when you compare our two teams. You got Randy Clark on one side, a very calm, I'll say cool-headed most of the time until he's on the sidelines in the middle of the game. But other than that, he's a very calm, composed guy, man a few words type guy until the game starts, of course. And then he's, flames coming out of the ears. He's trying to get his guys lit up. But when you compare the two coaches we have, I think it's kind of funny that you got Andy Hake, this dude that is going to give you 1,000 quotes, and you got Randy Clark, the man a few words, Greg Popovich style. So two contrasting personalities, but as you see here in the region, they both had their success. I mean, we'll talk about Brookfield a little later, but what Randy Clark has done there, hit 100 wins last season at Western Reserve, Andy Hake's old school, and John Armani's new school, which we're actually going to talk about here a little bit later in the show. But as you work down this schedule here, Matt, for Valley Christian that we're going to go into, we obviously got game one against Campbell Memorial. I think we'll save this one to break down a little bit more until next week, but just to give you guys a preview, that this is a Campbell Memorial team that's working now with second-year head coach and Andrew King. They went 1-9 last year, which was one of their worst seasons in school history. It's not normally like this. And they're going to have the exact same schedule this year. It's not an easy one. Here playing in the MVAC grade tier, you had all but 3 teams that were over 500 in their overall records. It was really impressive to see. Even the 5th seeded Liberty was 2 games away from making their playoff spot. They went into the final 2 games of the season at 5-3. Unfortunately, they went up, I believe it was against Springfield and one other playoff team. They weren't able to get past them because both of them were really phenomenal last season. But this was a Campbell Memorial team that, in the state of Ohio, they ranked 638th. Division 6, they were 91. Youngstown area, they were 56. They're looking to turn a lot around. They got a lot of guys coming back. They're going to have their quarterback and David Moore coming back as a junior quarterback. So you're still going to get another 2 seasons of development out of this kid. Malachi Taylor and Matt Kozorin, both leading the team defensively. You got Michael Henderson. Kayvon Moore is going to be returning as the running back. Mike Mazzaros, Danny Mitchell, Isaiah Flores, and Deshaun Will. They're all expected to take some big steps here for Campbell Memorial this season. And King also took over on the offensive line, and he says he's claimed that there's been a lot of improvements on that offensive line. So it'll be exciting for us to get into that game a little bit more next week. But I think you look game one of the season. Last year, this one wasn't very close between these two schools. Kind of bragging rights for John Napick Stadium, since they both played at the same home stadium, since Valley Christian doesn't have their own field. Playing here at a beautiful John Napick Stadium, by the way. But it was 36-6 last year. Valley Christian was just a couple steps ahead. Valley Christian, though, this year, keep in mind, they do take a step up division-wise. They played Division 7 football last year, but this season, they jump up to Division 6. So our Division 6 teams in the area, Columbiana, LeBray, United, Crestview, who moved down from Division 5, Brookfield, Mineral Ridge, Valley Christian, Campbell, East Palestine, Newton Falls, and Jackson Milton, who also moved up from Division 7. So a couple of new faces here in the division, Valley Christian being one of them. I think that'll play in more once we get to the postseason on how they play, but I think it's kind of nice to see this Valley Christian team getting pushed up a little bit in the divisions. And I think part of that, obviously school size is increasing a little bit, but I think it's at least in some mindset, it's belief in this program that Andy Hake's having them go in the right direction, that they're winning. I mean, after one winning season in the last decade, basically 2 winning seasons in the last decade, one was at the beginning, one was this very last year, that, they're able to take this step up. So I think there's some belief in this program outside of just, us here on YSN and Andy Hake and his team. But I love to see it. It's going to be a hard start, though, for this team because 3 straight road games to open it up. And I know Campbell Memorial is technically an away game. It's at their stadium. It's whatever. They're going to be in a different locker room, and that's going to take a part. They're not going to be in their normal setting that they were last season. Even just changing your rhythm up a little bit can throw a team off. It wasn't the case last year for them as they steamrolled Campbell in that game.
They'll be on the other side of the field, too.
Right, yeah. So it's going to be that different mindset, different setting, different views. When you're standing on that sideline, Andy Hake's going to be looking up at us in the press box now. So we'll have to make sure we're on our best up there. But game 2, they're on the road again, and they're taking on LeBray. Then they're on the road for the first 3 weeks. They take on McDonald to start the month of September. And I think you kind of look at these 3 games, and I think LeBray is definitely the hardest on there. We'll see what LeBray turns out to be, because they returned 23 letter winners from last year. And the only thing they really lost was their head coach, right? So their head coach headed out to Western Reserve and John Armani. They bring in John Elliott, first season here at LeBray. And I believe, where did he come over from? He was a coach at Warren JFK, I believe it was, the past season, or past 2 seasons, I think it was. So he was also an assistant interim head coach, I believe, at Fitch as well. So yeah, he's been around good programs. He should be, exciting. He should be able to come in and really pick this system up, no problem. So we'll see how he turns things around. But I mean, they're losing a stud in Armani. He won 63 games in 9 seasons for LeBray, and I mean, it's going to be very hard to replace that. He turned that team into a powerhouse here in the MVAC Gray, and now he heads over to Western Reserve, a team that's, kind of in the bottom half of the division here at the moment, and we'll see how he transfers things over, but it could be a big, coming back party for Western Reserve as well, and I think you can continue to see this LeBray team look good when you return this many players from a team that did so much last season, and even the last 2 seasons. They tied their single season win record at 11, a record they share with the 1983 team. And he's a guy I think you look at for this team that you just hope he can keep pushing them in the same direction. 11-2, 6-1 in conference play. They've won 35 out of 55 games in the last 5 years. They're running that spread offense, and I don't think a lot of people have really caught on to what happens there. So with that offense, at least at this level, they have the 6th best offense in the area, 12th best defense. This is a team that is just so great at running the football. I'm excited to see what they return this year. I mean, with Devin Carter going for 1,600 yards last year and 22 touchdowns, it was just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, LeBray, very good team. We've seen them a couple of times, I believe, with Brookfield, and, we'll see them here with, I think they come. No, they don't. They're on the road. So, I mean, but we've seen how this team is.
Matt, you and I will actually might get a shot to see LeBray October 7th as they come to Brookfield. So we might still get a chance to see them later in the year. So we'll see. We'll hear about that development early when they take on Valley Christian, and we'll get to see it in full turn in October.
Yeah, and October is when the stuff gets real. I'll tell you that.
That's when football gets down to it.
That's football, man.
Teams play their final 3 games. You got the World Series going on at the same time. Sports just kind of kicks into that extra gear because you're also getting into the final couple months for college football. NFL's in their mid-season, and you're kind of just in that football mindset, and it's a fun time of the year.
October is like the month for football. October, November. Oh,
it is a really great time for football. It's also, college football upset season.
Yeah, it is.
Upset season. You're going in there week 9 of the season in October most times. That's when you expect those upsets. Always got to watch out for week 9.
Yeah,
I hate that week. I always love it when Ohio State has their bye week on week 9. I'm like, all right, we're safe this year.
Who do they play week 9?
Oh, I don't remember this season. I'm looking at too many schedules here at once, man. I don't have Ohio State.
We'll talk about that more later.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But 3rd game of the season against McDonald. We'll see how this one goes. I'm not sure what to expect out of McDonald going into this season. They were 3-6 last year overall, but 3-2 in the MVAC Scarlet. So they were good and bad at the same time, and they just, I think, lacked consistency a lot. So we'll see how that turns around this season. They've been 35-16 over the last 5 years. This is a team that wins. They returned 7 starters offensively, 7 starters defensively, and a team that, statistically, we're statistically still about mid-tier here in the Youngstown area. 35th in offense, 56th in defense, but their defense was the part that struggled. When you look at the offense, they still had 24 points per game almost. They were just giving up 36 on the defensive end. So when you talk about returning defense, it's guys like Nathan Gilligan who put 87 tackles total last season in 10 games, which is phenomenal to see. And Danny Gray, who had 3 sacks in those games last year. It's guys like that you need to see make that step up on the defensive side. And offensively, Logan Hawk's got to put balls in the end zone. That's a big thing because he's a really phenomenal talent. We've seen him a couple times, and he completed 62% of his passes. He only threw 43 times, had 2 touchdowns and 245 yards. I think part of this is McDonald. I think they kind of lacked their wide receiving specialist last year because Nathan Gilligan was absolutely running the football phenomenal. He had 15 rushing touchdowns and 1,200 yards, averaging 7 yards per carry. I think most high school coaches would have been like, yeah, we're running the football here. But I think if they're going to get back to that winning standard there, they got to find a way to keep that offense balanced. If you're going to win here in high school football at a consistent rate, you have to maintain balance.
Yeah, always have to maintain the balance. We've heard that one before. I mean, McDonald, very tough. I mean, they're a tough team to go up against. Like, their record may not show it here and there, but I tell you what, these games here, and, it was a tough battle, both games. So, did I cut out there?
Yes, you did.
Okay. But I was just saying that McDonald gives tough battles. We called them twice last year, once with Brookfield and the other with Mineral Ridge. And, they're very tough games, that they both lost. But, hey, they're in it to the end. And I think things will get together. Gilligan, great running back, and as well as Hawks. I like the back, the double threat back there in the backfield. You can run whatever.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, a lot of talent in that backfield, and they got a chance to show it running the ball last year. But I still think you need to find out how to throw the football
to protect them.
Yeah, one heck of an offensive line.
Tell you what, one thing McDonald produces: offensive linemen. That you can never go wrong with their offensive line. They got some tough dudes up there.
That they do, Matt. And so after McDonald here they finally get to play at home, a true home game, not the Campbell game, but back here at home. And they're going to take on United. And really, I think it's one of the most anticipated matchups of the year for this Valley Christian squad. You go into that United game from last season, I believe it was.
They lost that game, right? They didn't beat United.
You know what? Didn't that game get called off last season?
Maybe.
I think that one.
United's mascot?
I believe that game got called off last year, Matt. That was one of those. That got rescheduled last minute because I think United hit COVID and Valley Christian was able to replace him at the last minute. I don't remember exactly what game that was now.
I remember a game being canceled and they were trying to find a new game, but nobody wanted to play them. Oh, I got their schedule.
No, here it was. They played Leetonia twice last season. So I think they got Leetonia on the schedule twice last year. At least that's what it looks like on the schedule I got at the moment. But I think you still go into this and you look at this United game as kind of the matchup here in the EOAC. When you look at these two teams, two that have been really great this last year. Southern was in the mix of things last year as well. Southern got the best of Valley Christian. We never got to see Valley Christian versus United, which obviously a little bit of a letdown there. But I think when you look overall, Valley Christian finished third, United finished first. This is a matchup we want to see this year. When you look at these two teams, that should be a really fun matchup that you're looking for. Second week in September, both teams should be kind of into their full system, full swing of things. And head coach over there, DJ Ogilvy, he's had a lot of success here as his second stint as United's head football coach. And they're bringing back some good talents, good offense, which led to them having the second best defense in the area. They allowed 10 points per game last season, which is 11, pardon me, but 11 points per game last season. They were phenomenal on paper, and it translated to a near perfect season for him. I mean, 8-2, you can't really do much better than that. So it's something you want to see from this team that continues on into this year. They didn't have the best offense. They're going to have to find a way to just continue to push offensively. But with how great their defense was, they could afford to have only 20 points per game some days. So we'll see how they turn things around in this one. And with David Ogilvy, former coach of Valley Christian as well, so he knows who he's going up against. And it's always fun to see those coaches go back to where they've been before.
Oh, always.
Just always. Like you and I always want to see Andy Haight go coach against
Western Reserve.
That'd be a fun one.
I want to see that. Pretty bad. Yeah. Maybe we will someday. But
maybe we will. Well, how about we go a little bit quicker through this schedule, because we're already halfway through the show. I haven't touched on Brookfield yet. You got David Anderson, Lisbon.
I'm about to go off there. So
yeah, I know you are. We're gonna have David Anderson, Lisbon, another home game here for Valley Christian. Should be, I'll say these should be a lot of wins here for Valley Christian. They're a really good team. And, Lisbon last year, I don't think they had the best of seasons. No, they were 2-5 overall. We'll see what they return this season. I haven't done a ton of research that far down the schedule just yet, but we'll see.
I think we get another 7-3, maybe.
For Valley Christian?
Something like that. Going over these games here, I mean, United's going to be tough. LeBray's going to be tough.
I don't know how you win that LeBray game. It's just two different standards.
Clippers are a pretty good football team. Wellsville, maybe. But, I mean, they're going to have some tough battles for certain. So they're going to have to come up saddled and, yellow War Eagle. And, they're going to. I mean, I think last year was an experimenting year. It was his first year with him. He has built that chemistry.
He had to figure out what he was working with.
Yeah, he built that quick, too. Now he knows what he has. He's been with these guys. It's his second year now.
And maybe most importantly, Matt, and what you're saying, they trust him.
Yeah, they trust him. I tell you what, he's not only built chemistry with his players, but his coaching staff as well. I mean, he was already building that. His defensive coordinator came to the Mineral Ridge game that we called with him. They're already building chemistry, hanging out with him, spending time with his other coaches, trying to figure out what they need to do. He works. He doesn't focus everything around him. He uses the other people for help. He's there, they're there, and he's gonna, he needs their help.
He's not lone wolfing it.
No.
He's a pack animal.
Oh yeah.
But, you look at Lisbon. After that, Letonia's bringing a new head coach, so we'll see how that develops down. And what's that going to be, week 6 or week 5, I think, of the season? No, week 6. I was right. After that, they head on the road again. 3 straight road games. We'll go up against Columbiana, which I think should be a really fun matchup in there. Then they go into Southern, which, again, another tough matchup. Then they finish their road stand against Wellsville. Then they come home, defend home turf, final game of the season against East Palestine and their new head coach as well. They brought in head coach Michael Dempster, who formerly coached at United as well. So you go into the season, we'll talk more Valley Christian next week as well, get into a little bit more of what they're going to be this season. But Matt, I think we'll turn it over here to Brookfield Football, and why don't we talk about what they got? Because, one, they got a hard schedule to start, and 2, they got a lot of guys coming back. So I'll hand it over to you, and you can take it.
They have 12 seniors, I believe, coming back. Some of those include Donovan Pawlowski. I mean, this dude is insane. This dude I've seen him play multiple sports. I mean, along with football, baseball, and basketball. The dude has made all-star teams. The dude is an all-around athlete. So was his brother David, who they did lose. But, hey, look who he has now. Isaiah Jones, who's also a senior. Great wide receiver. You throw in, Aiden Jones, who is just a junior. So you'll have him again, Aiden Jones and his brother Isaiah. Great dual threat guys, receiver, running back. I like what they got there. Cool Saloon. This guy was not around last year. He will be here this year. I believe he'll be in the kicking position as well as a wide receiver. You got like Xavier Withrow as well in the wide receiver. But, man, the guy we have been wanting to see all year since we saw him last year, Alec. I know you.
The CD player, man.
Christian Davis. I
The
saw
human
some clips.
mixtape.
Oh my gosh. I saw some clips from the scrimmage against Moody. The two key players from that game were Christian Davis and Isaiah Jones. Unbelievable. Look at the defense they got coming back. You have A.J. Bartland, who's a senior. Great guy. I mean, great defense player. Colin Murphy is back. You have Ryan Tetrick.
Cody Hoover
is back. They're going.
You also got Carilla on that. You got Carilla. Don't forget about Carilla. Last season, 52 tackles for Carilla out of the linebacker spot.
Owen Shingle-Decker.
Oh yeah, this is a team loaded with talent, Matt. And I don't have many quotes from Randy Clark or Ricky Clark. Well, who's Ricky? give him the heater. But no, from Randy Clark, he man a few words, but where he really stands out is his coaching expertise and the way he's able to just get these guys to play at the next level and kind of get them ready to go. He doesn't want to let anybody in on his game plan. I think that's kind of what makes him special. He's just so quiet and methodical with the way he prepares for these games and for the season even. You look at this Brookfield team, 29-23 in the last 5 years. Last season, they went 7-4, tied for third in the MVAC Gray. 18 seasons now overall for Randy Clark. 105 wins, 74 losses, and his wins are really starting to add up a lot more than his losses. He's finally got this program really turned in the direction he wants to go. He said it this season, expectations are high. And maybe one of the craziest things about what Randy Clark has turned around for Brookfield, 9 out of his last 11 seasons have been winning seasons. Before Randy Clark joined Brookfield, they hadn't had a winning season in a decade before him. Before him, they were 28-72 in the prior 10 years before Randy Clark. And since then, they're 105-74.
I've seen his teams over the past couple of decades. I've went to their playoff games. I've seen them get so close and then fall. This team is really reminiscent of those past teams that had made long runs. I forgot about Connor Heater, this guy, Navy commit. He's ready to go. He comes into the store I work at. The guy is eating chicken and rice. Like he's coming. He's coming. And guess what? We have his younger brother, Colin Heater, who's just a sophomore. And this kid's going to be something too. I mean, if he's working out with his brother, because that's all they do. That's all Brookfield does. They play sports and they work out.
You mentioned Tetrick, you mentioned Heater. Don't forget about 2-year starter on the offensive line and Braden Litz. He's been great under center. They're at center for Brookfield. Yeah, Braden Litz coming back this season. 2 years he's already started for this line. Now number 3 coming up.
Yes, and remember last year he had, I believe it was a torn ACL. So, we have to watch that again. He'll be nursing that, trying to play with it, trying to adjust to it because that thing can pop up and get you again, just like that. I believe it was an ACL. But, they have a great chance here. This is the team that is going to possibly make a huge deep run. There's huge expectations.
This is the team that has to make the run, I think, when you look at it, because they're gonna have a big fall off next year with how many guys they're losing. We'll see if that translates to their record, but they're gonna lose a lot of guys after this season, that's gonna hurt them. But this is a defense going into the year that was 8th last year in the region, allowed under 15 points per game, scoring over 25.
Their first, I would even go first 4 games are going to be tough. You got Ursuline, who just lost in the state championship.
Right, so state runner-up.
For that one, I believe I'm going to that one, though. I'm going to be bringing my notes and stuff. But then next week, they got Springfield, which I know the absence of Bo Brungard will be significant for them. But
not just that, Matt. They lose 8 of their 9 all-league players from last season. It's a lot of fall off this year. It's kind of what Brookfield's going to feel next year when they lose all their guys. Is all those seniors that made 2 back-to-back state championship runs and a Final Four appearance last year, all finally graduated. So we'll see what Springfield is this year. But they still got Shondale Gardner, so you got to watch out. That kid was mossing people in the Brookfield game last season. If you remember us calling that one, seeing Brungard throw it down to Gardner, that was special. They had a connection.
That was such an electric game, man. It was awesome.
It was.
Then next week
the cowbells in front of us too.
Oh yeah, no, that was awesome. My dad was sitting right there.
Yes, he was. He was just in front of us.
But then the next week they have Western Reserve, which will be another big game, and then
I'm interested to see what Western Reserve does because they're bringing in John Armani, who's won 63 games in 9 seasons, turned LeBray or kept LeBray going in the right direction so easily, and but he knows how to go against Brookfield. I think it's a big thing here for Western Reserve going into week 3. It's in Brookfield. I don't think John Armani is going to be scared, and I think he's going to have these guys ready to go against a really good Brookfield team this year.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I want some football.
Oh, I'm so ready for it. But, you're right when you talk Liberty in week 4. I think that's a hard matchup. You got Derek DiMattia back at quarterback here. He started quarterback last season, got moved over. I can't remember the guy who took over offensively for him, but that quarterback actually transferred over to Ursuline. So the former starter at Liberty in the last half of the season is now the Ursuline starting quarterback. I think it's DC Farrell, I believe is his name. Where is it? Pardon me. Because Brady Shannon's gone after last season. But, they brought in DC Farrell, who, as a freshman for Liberty last year, 62% of his 201 passes, 1,800 yards, and 21 touchdowns. So now he's with Ursuline, a team that was just in a state title game. And he's going to be a machine.
Yeah, he sure is.
Anytime a freshman goes that big year 1, teams like Ursuline and Mooney are going to be looking to snag him away from the public schools.
Randy Clark is definitely testing his team this year with this schedule. This schedule is tough as nails. You have Garfield in there. You have LeBray in there twice. No, it's just once. Everybody, those are tough teams to go against.
Yeah, Matt, and you look down the season. You look down the season. They don't really get a break. You might count Western Reserve. We'll see what they turn out to be in week 3. You might see that as a break. We'll see Liberty. I think Liberty is going to be a tough test no matter what they are this season. Then you got Campbell Memorial, who I think is still building back. So 2 out of the 8 games. I'll give Newton Falls as well because they didn't look great last season. I'll see if they turn it around. That's all the way down in week 7. So they can be an entirely different team at that point. But you look at 3 games on a 10-game schedule that you might get a little bit of a break from that aren't going to be the tightest games. But the other ones, Ursuline, all right, state runner-up. Springfield, Final Four. Liberty, they were 2 games away from a playoff spot. Crestview, they're always hard. LeBray, they dominated you the last 3 matchups. Garfield, we'll see what they are, but because they're losing, they lost their big guy, Anthony Dema. They lost him this offseason. He was awesome last year. We'll see what they turn this offense into because they created their old school offense because all they had was Anthony Dema, and they finally got some guys around him. We'll see what they turn into. And then final week is champions. So it's going to be an absolute gauntlet for Brookfield this season to try and run through this schedule. Donovan Pawlowski, first team All-League, 2,500 total yards last season to go along with 25 touchdowns.
And he can do it on the ground, too.
Well, 900 of those 25 are rushing yards.
When he wants to, he will take off, and they have that offensive line to do it. You talked about, Braden Litz. The guy is a truck. The guy can, clear the pathway for a semi if he wanted to. The guy is amazing. So, along with the other offensive linemen, sometimes they put Ryan Tetrick on offensive line. That's even more of a nightmare. I'd rather, imagine him being on defense and offense. You have to come out there and face the guy twice. Like, oh, crap, So, well,
when you look at Donovan Pawlowski, I think you kind of have to look comparison at the next level. I think he compares really well to guys like Trace McSorley and JT Barrett, both dual threat quarterbacks at, respectively Ohio State, Penn State. Will Levis was a big body quarterback now, so I'm not going Will Levis. Size is more comparable to McSorley and JT Barrett, 2 guys that use their legs effectively, but they're not looking to run. Their last resort is to run, and their escapability is unmatched, but are always looking to get that ball down the field to their targets and to their top receivers.
And they have targets.
And both of those guys worked with some pretty great running backs and gave it to them quite often.
Yes, it did.
Watch out for the CD player, Christian Davis, to get into it.
He's always a sophomore, man.
I know. He looked so great last year behind Tiandre Craig, and now you go into the sophomore year. I don't know any of the other running backs that they officially have at that spot, but I don't think many other guys are going to be. Oh, Aiden Jones. Yeah, I forgot about that one. He's a good, solid guy. He's definitely going to get those yards when CD has to come out of the game. But I think this Brookfield offense has to rely on Christian Davis this year. You don't get guys like this very often. And when you have Isaiah Jones and Withrow on the outsides, if you can find play action success, this team is going to rip defenses to shreds because guys are just not that tuned into games at this point in their career that they can read those play actions to ultimate, effectiveness. And so it really opens the door. If Brookfield can design their offense in a play action, RPO style, speed up the tempo to really catch some teams off guard. I think when they go into the games against Ursuline and Springfield, they have to utilize RPOs and play actions and option plays. They have to find ways to confuse the defense's eyes because if you're going into Ursuline playing a basic spread offense, they're going to pick you apart. They are too talented. They have too many guys coming back from last year, and they're going to rip you apart defensively if you go basic. Randy Clark, sometimes his play calling gets stagnant, but we've seen him. When the chips are down, he's really great at changing eye levels and changing what the defense is seeing and making those adjustments on the fly when he really needs to.
Sure does. And now let's talk about Christian Davis here. Let's talk about the people that surround him. I mean, you look at his coach, Randy Clark. He's always in his ears. He always getting his guys going. His running back coach, Joe Laverty, he was one of my coaches when I played football as a kid. He's always there. He always gives you, the momentum. He gives you the encouragement. So great guy to have around there. And let's talk about his brother, Xavier Bailey, great player at Brookfield, and then played for a little bit at Ohio University before having an injury that would, end his career. But guess what he does now? He's a bodybuilder. So there's some guys around him that bring encouragement to him. And, he's in a great environment right now.
He really is. And, you talk about his brother. That was fun to talk to last season before one of the games. The expectation he's put on Christian Davis, he's really gotten in there and has worked with him. And, as great as he was for Brookfield, he expects Christian Davis to be twice the running back. And, to get a D1 offer out of a place like Brookfield, it's hard to do. That's why, when we talk about Connor Heater getting the Navy scholarship and getting that commitment over there, how talented you really have to be to go from a small school like this that's not getting a lot of media coverage. You're in Division 6 in the state of Ohio. This is a very deep state when it comes to divisions. We have 7 divisions made up of, over 100 teams in each of them. So to stand out at this level, his brother knows what it took. He's got guys on the team that know what it takes. He's got coaches in Clark that knows what it takes. Christian Davis is set up for success, and he just has to keep an open mind when all those guys are constantly in his ear. Just take the feedback and use it. Don't let them control how you operate, but let them influence how you do things and how you prepare for these games, because they're going to know what they're talking about. They're going to try and get this guy to be the focal point of the offense. Most likely next year he takes over 100% as the focal point of this offense, and you're going to see nothing but Christian Davis in year number 3 at Brookfield. But year 2 here, it's building blocks of season 1, first time around as a starter, and he's got so much feedback coming in. I just hope he can, quiet the noise a little bit, tune those guys out, and just do what he does best.
He will.
And
just run.
Limits his potential is limitless at the moment. He's got all the potential in the world building right now, and we're hyping him up a lot here. But we're looking for big things out of Christian Davis.
Absolutely. But yeah, we go back to the small school. There's only been one guy to make it out of Brookfield and to do something successfully. His name was Marcus Merrick. He played Ohio State football, and I believe he played in the Canadian Football League as well. So that's the only guy. They have guys
football-wise.
Football-wise.
You said there's only been one person that's ever made it out of Brookfield.
They have guys on this team that I think can make it. I think Connor Heater can make it to, past the next level. Same with Christian Davis if he stays on that path.
Same with Isaiah Jones. Too. Yeah. I want to get back to Isaiah Jones here because he is so talented, and we see him do amazing things sometimes. There were some points last season, I think even he would say he kind of I won't say slacked off because I don't feel like that's the right word, but he was disengaged at moments in some of the games when they really needed him the most. When he gets, one bad thing going his way last season, I think this was part of the maturity, and I hope he grows out of it going into this season. But when things weren't going right, I think he kept getting down on himself, and I hope Randy Clark and Pawlowski can get in there and really just keep picking him back up, because if you're going to win games, you have to have your number one wide receiver out there doing his thing. And, that's what Isaiah Jones is. He's wide receiver one, had half of the team's passing touchdown receptions last season with 5 of them, 694 yards. But, we heard it last year, beginning of the season. He was hunting for single season record. He was off that by a bit because he started slowing down at the end of the season. And this season, that mindset's going to be right back there. Single season records. That's what this kid is chasing. He's got potential. Pawlowski's now working as a senior. He's had 3 years to go at the quarterback spot, being that guy. So we'll see how he deals.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right, let's hop out of high school football for the last 10 minutes of the show here, Matt. Get back into the National Football League preseason. Mike and I have been making our predictions going on all week long for the preseason stuff, just getting ourselves back into rhythm here, Matt. So let's go ahead and do that. We got a couple of games down yesterday. We're about halfway through the Saturday slate here at the moment. Let's start this off. Chiefs versus Bears, the 1 p.m. game tomorrow on the NFL Network. Matt, you look at these two teams, I think it's pretty obvious when you go into depth charts. Kansas City, I think, has a lot more depth than Chicago, and we've seen so far in the preseason, the better teams won 2 out of the 3 games so far. Baltimore killed the Titans yesterday, 23-10. Giants and Pats kept it close the whole time. Giants do come out on top. For the Hall of Fame game, we saw the Raiders take over the Jaguars. Teams we expect to win have continued to win here so far. I think when you look at the Chiefs this season, while I don't look for big things from the regular season, I do think you got to have to go good things at least here in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, preseason, I pay attention to it a little bit, but I know I like to go and watch the young players, play, see what they got. Malik Willis actually had a great game the other day.
Yes, he did for the Titans. He looks really nice.
Looks like a truck, man. Holy cow. Maybe I should stop talking bad about it. But, I mean, hey.
He's your next Lamar Jackson. You already hate him.
Half the players he's playing against could be bagging groceries in a couple weeks. So, I mean, I like what he's doing, but, I mean, look at he's doing it again.
Don't overreact.
I know.
That's always the thing. That's always the thing.
Yeah, that is true.
No matter how good somebody looks, it's preseason.
It's preseason. Pre is the key word.
Yes.
So, I like to see. I think a couple teams have some things to figure out, especially Cleveland, and as well as Pittsburgh. I mean,
Deshaun Watson starting game 1, so we'll see.
Yeah, as of right now.
Yeah. As of right now, unless the NFL puts a suspension in the next 24 hours, we'll see what goes on there. But Matt, second game on the list. I already know who you're picking on this one, but Colts versus the Bills preseason. I'm excited to see what this Colts have. We should see Matt Ryan at least a little bit here in this game. We'll see Josh Allen on the other side, but I'm excited to see what this Colts team have. Their offense, we know, is built around Jonathan Taylor. They have no wide receiver core, and that's the big thing with this team. Their wide receiver core ranks among the worst, if not the worst, in all of the NFL. Especially last season, they didn't have anybody to go to. And a lot of times they want to blame the quarterback for not getting into these guys. That's why Jacoby Brissett got ran out of Indy for Carson Wentz. Then Carson Wentz got ran out of Indy for Matt Ryan. It's a revolving door of quarterbacks because you can have all the quarterbacks you want. You can have Tom Brady there, but he doesn't have any wide receivers. They don't have an offensive system designed to throw the football. And I'm taking the Bills because as much as like the Colts – past their first unit, who the heck are you going to throw the ball to? They're not going to have any wide receivers. They literally are going to have Walmart grocery baggers out there.
Yep.
And I don't know the last time I've seen a Walmart grocery bagger, so they need to get back to the stores.
You got the Aldi's team and the Walmart team.
I'm going Aldi's here. They got better deals, so give me the Bills.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Seahawks, Steelers, game 3. I already know who you're picking on this one, too, so I might as well not even ask it. But, your Steelers team, I think they got some bright spots, especially in their younger core that's going to be getting some time in this game. We should see some Master Teague in this football game as well. You're going to see revolving door quarterbacks here in preseason. You're going to find out who really is going to solidify themselves, because at this point, we haven't heard who the starter is yet, right?
No,
I haven't missed that. Okay.
Everybody's saying that Mitchell Trubisky has it all locked up, but a lot of people are, tell you what, I'm not.
Preseason's going to tell you a lot. If Pickett comes out and just starts throwing darts,
yeah.
If Pickett comes out throwing darts here in preseason, you're going to be hard pressed for them not to throw him in there immediately, because the fans are going to be screaming for it.
A lot of people have been talking about Mason Rudolph too, which, I mean, yeah, a lot of people talk about him, but not in a good way. And I'm like, why are they talking about him in a good way?
Here's my thing with Mason Rudolph. We've already seen him as a quarterback in the NFL. We already saw what he was. He wasn't up to par. Even if he's gotten better in practices and training camps, he looked good in practices and training camps till they got into a real game too.
Yeah. I tell you what, he was at first. I thought he was going to be our guy.
I loved him out of Oklahoma State.
Oh yeah. He was awesome. And then he came in and he did very well to start. And then you know what? He got benched for the duck. He got knocked out by Earl Thomas and was scared to get hit ever since. Here comes the footsteps. Oh no, what do I do? You just see Earl Thomas, the former Legion of Boom leader, coming in.
I think any quarterback that's gotten hit by Earl Thomas has Earl Thomas nightmares, though. So.
Oh yeah.
You even hear it from guys like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning that after it's like, who's the most terrifying quarterback defensive player you've ever gone against? And they're all go Earl Thomas. And it's just that dude gives me nightmares at night. Some of those guys are saying so.
And then let's not forget to mention that he got his head smashed in by Myles Garrett with his own helmet. The guy has PTSD. He doesn't want to play. He's scared. He's scared.
I don't know if he doesn't want to play. I don't know if he should play. Next game, we got to run through these next 5 quick here. Only 4 minutes left on the show. Dolphins, Bucks, no Tom Brady. Wasn't going to see him in preseason anyway, so just forget about it. I don't think the Bucks are very deep this year. They have a good starting unit, but I don't think they're as deep. And I think the Dolphins are kind of building up. So I'm actually going to go Miami on this.
Florida, right?
Huh?
They have the quarterback from Florida. What was his name?
Tampa?
Yeah. What was his name? Oh, the Florida quarterback from the past 2 years ago or something. Oh man.
Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask?
Yeah, Kyle Trask. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to see Ryan Griffin, Kyle Trask, and Blaine Gabbert as quarterbacks here for Tampa.
Blaine. Here comes Blaine. That's what he is.
Yeah. All right. I'm taking Dolphins in that game. Who you want?
Dolphins.
Fair enough. All right, next one up. Saints, Texans. I'm excited to see this Saints young core go off in this game. I want to see a lot of these guys go. Olave is the number one guy I want to see down there. I do think the Texans probably have a pretty nice young core, but they lack any depth, and you need depth in preseason. You're just not going to win otherwise, because when you go put in your 4th unit and there's nobody back there, you're not going to find ways to win games. So I got Saints.
I got the Saints as well.
Next one, it's Mike's team. He already picked the Cowboys well in advance on this one.
Of course.
But how can you not? I mean, you picked Steelers, I picked Browns. It's what goes on. And the Bills, yes, you did. Cowboys, Broncos. Like I said, I'm not excited about the Broncos. Give me the Cowboys.
I like the Cowboys.
Fair enough. Rams, Chargers, Battle of LA here. I think this should be a fun one. I really like this Chargers team. I think they got the depth. I think they got weapons all around. Rams coming off a Super Bowl win. They're not worried about preseason.
No.
All right, final game of the NFL preseason week 1. Vikings, Raiders. Raiders back in action. We've already seen this second unit go for them, and they looked phenomenal out there. So I'm going Raiders over the Vikes to finish things out. You're going Raiders, it sounds like, as well here. But, Matt, that leaves us down just 2 more things to do on the show. Highlights of the week. I'm going it. Football's back, baby. I'm here for it. I want to get down to it. We got high school next week. That's going to be my highlight there next week. Matt, what's yours?
Cleveland is in first.
The Guardians are in first place. Yes.
Yes.
It's a long time coming this season, but they're here, man. All right, let's wrap it up. One final thing, Matt. This week's Meathead of the Week.
All right, Meathead of the Week this week. I could give it to somebody, but shout you're laughing over that. But Meathead of the Week is actually going to go to me, all right, because I haven't been on the show all week, and I haven't been.
And it says so in the intro that you're the Meathead of the Week, so we got to go with it.
Yeah. So I'm the meathead of the week and her.
Well, smile for the camera there, Matt, because you're meathead of the week. All right. Oop, just kicked him out of the stream. My bad. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. Power Hour coming up next on your sports network. We'll be back with more next week on YSN.